In this video, we're going to be looking at finding percent of a number by multiplying. So to find percent of a number, you can use a number line or strip diagram to find the percent, or you can multiply the number by the decimal of the percent. Sometimes it's a whole lot easier to multiply rather than use a number line. So let's look at how to multiply to find percentages. Our first question asks, what is 24% of 73? So to be able to multiply, our step one is to turn our percent into a decimal. You drop the decimal sign, percent sign, and move the decimal 2 places to the left, which is the same as dividing by 100. As you can see, 24% turns into 24 hundredths. So step two is to multiply your percent as a decimal by the number you are trying to find the percent of. So I've got an additional video linked here if you need help with multiplying with decimals. So I'm going to start out by multiplying 73 times 24 hundredths. And I get an answer. I kind of stop worrying about the decimal right now and just multiply like normal. I'll deal with the decimal at the end. So if I solve this correctly, I get 1,752. We'll deal with the decimal on the next slide. So step three is to count how many decimals that we have, or look at each decimal that we have and count how many numbers to the right of each decimal. In this case, I have 2. So I have my 24 hundredths, and I have the 2 and the 4, which are to the right of the decimal. So I'm going to start where the invisible decimal would be in my number, 1,752. And I'm going to move it 2 places to the left. And so I get a final answer of 17 and 52 hundredths. And then we check to see if our answer is reasonable. If I get an answer bigger than my number that I started with, I know my answer is not reasonable. In this case, I could take the number 72, kind of estimate there, divide it into 4 parts, since 24% is almost 25%, which would be 1/4 of a number. And I would get a reasonable answer. So another example here is, what is 4% of 298? On this, I'm going to start by estimating my answer. Since I know that 4% is close to 5%, I can find 5% of my number and estimate, and my answer should be just a little less than that number. So I start by finding 10% of 298, which is 29 8/10. I can round that up to 30 and then divide it in half, since 5% would be half of 10%. This would give me 15. So I know my answer is going to be a little less than 15. Our step one, again, is to turn our percent into a decimal. 4% would equal 4 hundredths, since percent means out of 100. Then I multiply my number by the percent as a decimal. So 298 times 4 hundredths. Again, when I multiply, I kind of ignore the decimal at first, and I get an answer of 1,192. We'll put that decimal back in, and just on the next slide. So since I have 2 numbers to the right of the decimal, I will use 2 decimal places. I start out at the right of the last digit, move it over 2 places to the left, and I get 11 and 92 100ths, or 92 hundredths. We estimated that our answer would be a little less than 15, and our answer is 11 and 92 hundredths, which is reasonable. It's pretty close to our estimate. In our last example here, I'm going to find out what 54% of 19 7/10 is. So on this one, I'm going to start again by estimating my answer. Since I know that 54% is a little more than half, that's where I'm going to start. 19 7/10 are to round up to 20, so I know that half of 20 is 10. 54% is a little more than 50%, so my answer should just be a little more than 10. We'll see what it is. Again, step 1 is turning my percent into a decimal. So 54% would equal 54 hundredths. I'm going to multiply it by my number that I'm trying to find the percent of. So 19 7/10 times 54 hundredths. In this case, I'm going to again put those decimals to the side for the moment, and I would get 10,638. In our next step, let's get to it. We are going to add our decimals back into our product, which is our answer. So in this case, we have 3 numbers to the right of decimals because there's 1 in 19 7/10 and 2 in 54 hundredths. So again, we start at the right, move those 3 places now over, and we get 10 638 thousandths. We estimated that our answer would be just a little more than 10, and our answer is it's just a little bit more. So it's 10 and 638 thousandths.